8-bit joystick. I am going to be testing the Retro Fighters BattlerGC wireless gamepad for the GameCube, PC, and the Nintendo Switch. We can now run GameCube on the Nintendo Switch too. Sweet! The Retro Fighters BattlerGC Pro is a bigger, beefier update to the GameCube controller. My destiny to getting this started when I was looking for a good wireless controller for my Nintendo GameCube, and I was at Hawthorne Game Exchange, and I asked, who makes a good one? The owner looked at me straight in the eye and simply said, Nintendo does. And she was right. The Nintendo WaveBird is hands down one of the greatest wireless controllers ever made. So for many gamers, it might be time to consider taking a look at Retro Fighters' latest and greatest controller, because they might have officially outdone Nintendo, or at least provided a modern cross-platform alternative. Retro Fighters is walking a fine line here. They want to pay homage to the original, ensuring that you can instantly pick it up and recognize it as a GameCube controller, but they also want to bring their own improvements to the table and update things that needed updating. It's a tall order to try and improve on perfection, but they just might have done it. A major upgrade is the really well-designed Hall effect triggers and analog sticks, which will never have any drift. You can say that they always work. Get it? Always? Okay, I'll show myself out. So if your WaveBird or original Nintendo GameCube controllers are showing stick drift, it might be time to upgrade. The Nintendo WaveBird also famously lacked rumble and required 2 AA batteries. The BattlerGC Pro has a built-in rechargeable battery with over 10 hours of gameplay on a single charge, and it charges via USB-C on the top of the controller. A common complaint about the original GameCube controller is that the D-pad is a little small. Well, the D-pad on the Retro Fighters controller is big, clicky, and accurate with integrated switches. After years of squinting at that tiny original one, this big D-pad is totally delightful. This is going to be a joy if you use your GameCube with the Game Boy player to play Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games on your TV. Your hands have been asking for this for a long time. The body of the controller is wider and heavier than the original GameCube controller and has a premium feel. It's a little blasphemous to say this, but it feels closer to a PlayStation controller, while still feeling like a GameCube controller, thanks in part to the vibration motors on both sides. The button layout is familiar but improved. It still has the Nintendo-inspired A, B, X, Y buttons, but they've been moved up a little bit, and the A button is slightly smaller, making it a bit more ergonomic. The left analog stick is also positioned a little higher up, which adds to the comfort, and you still have the super cute C stick on the right. For Switch compatibility, it has the plus, minus, and home and screenshot buttons. The screenshot is on the top. And there are Z triggers both on the right and left side, along with really nice analog triggers for perfect GameCube compatibility. They even added action buttons on the back of the controller, which is great for things like wave dashing in Smash Bros. If you're into that. My particular model has a glacier clear-through design, which invokes both the original classic GameCube purple and the atomic purple of the Game Boy Color. Every element on here is incredibly respectful to where they came from, but they also made the improvements that they wanted to make. It feels like a Nintendo controller, but it also feels modern. While the Nintendo WaveBird only works with a Nintendo GameCube and, by extension, GameCube-compatible Nintendo Wii and the Wii U via adapters, the BattlerGC Pro aims for much more. Right in the box, it says it's for use with the Nintendo GameCube, and it does include a 2.4G wireless receiver that is much smaller and more compact than Nintendo's original. Now, the Nintendo WaveBird required you to set the 2.4G channel both on the receiver and on the controller. This one uses a modern hardware handshake, and all you have to do is set the little switch on the back to 2.4G and you get an instant rock-solid connection to your GameCube. But that's not all. It also includes a USB receiver that works with PC and PC-compatible retro systems like the RetroPie. This controller has support for the GameCube, the Wii, and the Wii U, but also the Nintendo Switch. And you get Bluetooth for modern systems and 2.4G wireless for older ones, and you can switch between them with the flip of a switch. No pun intended. So whichever wireless method that you choose, you get up to 30 feet of wireless range. And thanks to a software update, it even supports the Nintendo Switch 2. This is super important because Nintendo just added GameCube game support to Nintendo Switch Online on the Switch 2. Yesterday, I had a great time playing a variety of games on my GameCube. I tried Crazy Taxi, SoulCalibur, and Ikaruga, and it worked great, hooked up to a CRT TV. I got used to the new form factor in Crazy Taxi, even though the sticks felt a little sensitive at first. My time with the GameCube was fantastic, but things got a little complicated when I tried to move over to the Switch 2. And that led to the firmware fiasco. Lo and behold, it did not want to connect to my Nintendo Switch 2 at all. Not via USB, not via Bluetooth. And then I discovered that Retro Fighters had just come out with a firmware update. I took a look at the instructions and I saw that the updater was a Windows exe file. And of course, I'm on a Mac, so that presented a bit of a challenge for me. I have a Mac Mini M2 Pro, and since it's all Apple Silicon, running a version of Windows is a bit of a hassle for me. Now, the kind folks at Retro Fighters sent me this controller for review, and I'm very pleased with it. But since the time it was manufactured, Nintendo came out with the Switch 2, and almost every single third-party Bluetooth controller needs a driver update to work with the Switch 2. And then I remembered that Hawthorne Game Exchange sells Retro Fighter controllers, and I called them and asked, "Hey, I know you've got a Windows PC there. Would you terribly mind updating the firmware on my controller?" Even though I didn't buy it there, they updated the firmware for me, and so I purchased some sweet OG Dragon Ball DVDs while I was there. So support your local retro game store. It was an easy fix thanks to my local store, and I'm really grateful for their help. I like Retro Fighters, I just wish that they had a Macintosh updater program too. So once I got it working with the Nintendo Switch 2, it was fantastic. This new D-pad is great for NES games, and I also gave it a shot for N64 games via emulation, and I love this controller for N64. My brain is able to hold a GameCube style controller and play N64 games without any issue. Now, Nintendo does make a GameCube controller for use with the Nintendo Switch 2, and that's cool, but you can only use it with the Switch 2. This thing works with the original GameCube and a plethora of other systems. So you might want to ask yourself if you want to get one of these instead of the official Nintendo GameCube Switch 2 controller. It's a tall order for Retro Fighters to be so bold as to make a GameCube controller and try to do it better than Nintendo. Nowhere on the packaging does it say, hey, this is better than Nintendo, but it really holds its own. I like the weight and the heft, and it absolutely does it for me. I already have the Retro Fighters N64 controller and Dreamcast controllers, and I love what they have done here. I look forward to using this thing with the Nintendo Switch 2 to play all sorts of awesome retro games. Let's talk about the Smash Bros. Elephant in the room. This controller is totally made for playing Smash Brothers. It's got the Z buttons on both shoulders and super fast triggers and the trigger buttons on the back. It also has that ergonomic feel, and there's no doubt in my mind that they were taking notes from hardcore Smash Brothers fans when they were designing this controller. Now, I'm going to get some flack for this. I have Smash Brothers, but I am not a hardcore fan. I like it, but not on the level of people who are really into it. I can tell that this has the improvements and features that hardcore Smash Brothers fans are lusting after. So if you're into Smash Brothers, this controller is a pretty darn good option. It's got what you are looking for. So, does it replace my old trusty WaveBird? For playing my Nintendo Switch and PC, absolutely. Retro Fighters didn't just meet the legend, in many ways they've surpassed it. So make sure you tune in tomorrow because I'm going to take a look at the Ghoulie Kit Elves 2 Pro Controller for Switch, mobile, and PC, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, it would really help out if you would hit the like button. That tells YouTube that you thought it was awesome. This is 8-Bit Joystick. Stay awesome, play retro.